Welcome back to This Week in Events for Friday, 21st November. Joining me this week, Paul Richardson and Jill Hawkins.
Hello, how you doing?
Very well, but
Good,
chilly.
Bit
good
chilly.
morning. Cold, isn't it?
Some of us had a colder start than others,
Yes, I
as
was
in,
frozen at my office this morning, which is great. The locks all froze up.
well, I was thinking about your morning run actually. But
Yeah.
yeah, that didn't help either, having a frozen lock.
You're not doing
Right.
much for Paul's credibility. Everyone now thinks he's mad and has no sensible opinions about the industry at all, because obviously if he went for a run at -5 or whatever it was this morning, he must be mad.
Beautiful. Watch the sunrise over the hills.
Oh
Absolutely
wow.
gorgeous.
Wow, gorgeous.
Ma-
Um,
it's
um,
worth the mild dose of hypothermia for the views.
okay, so not only we made people think he's mad, we probably actually confirmed it. But there you go. Never mind. Yes, it's a chilly Friday. And this morning there was ice on the cars. Yeah, a little sprinkling of ice-like material. So yeah, very chilly. So let's hopefully things get a bit warmer. Should we start with something that's rather, I think is a good thing, a very good thing. And that would be Eventwell launching their operational benchmark for event quiet rooms.
Yes, I agree. I think it's really good. I think Helen's work is amazing, and it's about time, I feel, that this something like this has happened. So she's launched um, operational benchmark. So basically a standard that quiet rooms should adhere to, and hopefully organizers would make sure that their provider could actually provide a quiet room in the way that the standard actually sets it out to be. I think it's a great idea.
It's not so much a case of we've had a good idea, this is how we do it, now you guys must do it. I think it really is coming from what's needed.
I know you were sharing earlier, Bob, some examples of people using quiet rooms and perhaps abusing them a little bit, or
I wouldn't say abusing, but inappropriate use, as in, this looks like a quiet space where I could use my smartphone and interact on Instagram, which is not quite the point. It's somewhere where somebody's having, who's neurodiverse, having experiencing some stress, maybe some problems that they need to resolve, which can be done by having like an hour on their own, somewhere really quiet. But the last thing you want is people who just decided, oh, look, quiet space. I can actually get on with some work.
yeah,
Not for
absolutely. It's not.
laptops, not for phones. It's somewhere where you just go to chill out and calm yourself down if you're feeling stress.
I think even if you're not actually classed as neurodiverse, events can be, especially big events in exhibition halls, can be really booming and be really quite overwhelming. I mean, I've been in events where I've just thought, oh God, I just need 15 minutes just to sit and be. And I found one of the event well quiet rooms and sat in that peacefully for 15 minutes, recharged, off you go, out to battle again, as it were. So no, I think that's a nice idea.
It's I think it's needed because we go to so many events. There are so many variations in terms of what people think is a quiet room as well, what the provision is. Whether it's a piece of dedicated space or whether it's a room within the event or away from the event. I mean, sometimes it's treated as a side lot, very much a side thing we have to do. So we'll stick it in this room miles out of the event. So the person actually doesn't feel that they're included within the event. They have to make a conscious effort to go and leave the event to go to the quiet room or to whatever quiet space they've allocated. And then when they get there, the token efforts of half a dozen beanbags, some um, vaporized scents, a bit of twinkly music, and nobody there other than a self-serve find a space to sit
Mm.
down. It's much more than that, and I think that shows a very deep lack of understanding of what a quiet space should be. And we've known Helen at Eventwell for quite some time, and the key elements that they deliver is far more than just the trappings of a room with some items in it. We had an instance at a conference, in fact, it was an AV conference many years ago at the BDC. And Eventwell had a quiet room set up at that conference. And one of the people we were with suffered overwhelm in the real buzz. It was one of the first events they'd been to, so they weren't quite ready for what to expect. 45 minutes, 50 minutes in a professionally well-run quiet room, back to 100%. Went in, just got themselves together. They managed to just organise their thoughts and what was happening, and then came out bright as a button, and off they went. But it was because it was treated correctly and it was properly delivered, made a huge difference.
That's the important thing. You mentioned something very important, which is a supervised room. Because
absolutely,
there's several roles that the supervisor provides. One is to make sure not just anybody turns up. Because if you're looking for a space to use your laptop because it's a quiet space, or one can get some work done, not appropriate use. The second role is what happens if somebody's going through a very stressful personal experience, which they can't get out of, and they're finding it very difficult to deal with. A trained supervisor will recognize it and assist them in the most appropriate way that they see fit. Without that supervision to help that person, then you left them fending for themselves.
absolutely. And also, if you don't have somebody there, are you opening, there are some predatory people out there that would quite happily prey on a lone person sitting on their own in a quite secluded room, and come along and perhaps take advantage in some way. So there's that safety aspect as well, isn't there?
Exactly. So if you've got a well-trained person acting as like, no, I would not say a supervisor, guardian,
Yes.
Someone who's approachable, who knows how to react when approached, as opposed to just a spare body who, if you could just look after this room for 10 minutes, it'd be really cool.
Yeah.
And they have no idea what they're doing.
It's sort of taking it seriously, isn't it? It's actually almost professionalizing it, taking the whole issue of neurodiversity and our accessibility, of events for people with and in anyone feeling overwhelmed, really. As somebody that's menopausal, overwhelm is a big part of the menopause. And considering how many women there are in the industry, and how many women of a certain age, sort of the over 50s, it's helpful for that as well. So I think it's a really good move to actually make this, to be able to guide organisers this way with these standards. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, standards that are born out of experience and need,
Yes,
as opposed to
absolutely.
randomly thrown in there and thinking, oh, this is what I think we should do. No, from experience, this is what's needed, which
Yeah.
I think is a great way of moving forward.
Helen knows what she's doing, doesn't she?
She does, but she has built up an experienced team. There's more than Helen, and the whole team seems to be moving forward in the same direction. They all seem to know what's needed. Maybe they've experienced things, so they understand what's needed. So I think, as a whole, the whole of Eventwell are moving forward, and I think these standards are going to be really, really good.
Excellent.
And any last thoughts, Paul?
No, it's one of those things. It's like a lot of great ideas that start. There comes a point where there needs to be some regulation or something that actually puts some parameters around it, and draws a line under it and said anything below this is below standard. Therefore, it gives people guidance. And again, if at some point there becomes some kind of accreditation or kite mark that goes with it, that you can say this is an accredited quiet room. Then you've got a standard, you've got a benchmark. But again, accreditation is a process. We did a lot of work on, or the other side of our business did a lot of work on the ESSA accreditation and built an online system for them. And that's there's a lot of steps and things that go in that. It's quite a meaty thing to do, so that you can at the end turn around and say, it's accredited. Why is it accredited? Because it's audited, because it's got all these things and it's been had third-party verification. All those kind of things are needed if you're going to put a standard in place. But it's steps in the right direction.
Absolutely.
And generally just helps the industry move forward and try and do the right thing in the right way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, really cool. Um, Next story then. Um, Apprenticeships. Now, I know, Paul, you're very keen on apprenticeships, something well, more than keen, I guess. So the full story is Event Apprenticeships Program moves under the power of events.
Yeah, it's an interesting title, isn't it? I mean, in what? In alphabetical order or in
What does it
terms of,
actually
yeah,
mean?
in terms of
So,
complete control? It's a very vague kind of piece of news. Um, a bit of clarity in the news piece would have been very helpful.
well, yeah, again, it's trying to establish a standard. The only thing is, people love buzzwords like vague buzzwords. So the Power of Events has a newly revised Level 3 Event Coordinator Apprenticeship Standard. So I'd like to hazard a guess what that might actually imply.
Well, there's two stories there, aren't there? They've wrapped two stories in one, I feel that. So the events apprenticeship program is moving under the umbrella of the Power of Events. That's one story. So the Power of Events being an umbrella organization that is promoting the events industry as a credible career to schools. And I like that. I think that's a very good use of the Power of Events to actually promote at school level, because we know that lots of career choices are made at school. It's too late to go out to universities in a way. You want to get the kids as they're deciding their options and deciding what they're going to do for A levels and then their degree. But then we've then got the newly revised Level 3 Event Coordinator Apprenticeship Standard. Brilliant. That's been approved by the government. That's a whole nother story, I think. So with the apprenticeship program moving under the Power of Events, what does that actually mean? What does that mean for the industry? How is that going to impact on people? Does that mean, because we looked, didn't we, at the events apprenticeship website, and it's a portal of information. I felt that it's all in one place so that as a somebody looking for an apprenticeship or a company looking to take on an apprentice, they can go to the website and find resources. They can find training providers, they can find information about the different apprenticeship paths that are actually within the events industry. And it's quite a nice looking website. It feels like it's a little bit out of date, but the core is there, I feel. But what does it actually mean with it coming
Well,
under the umbrella of the Power of Events?
again, vague and meaningless buzzwords. This approach builds on the work already achieved and positions apprenticeships within a platform that has a far wider reach and stronger visibility across the sector. So, what does it mean you're going to put some banner ads out to promote the website? I don't know. It's unclear.
Or does this mean that when the Power of Events is going out to schools, they're really pushing the apprenticeships, which you would think they would be doing that anyway? But does that just formalize it, perhaps? I
Well,
don't know.
the Power of Events already has a section on the website for apprenticeships. So
Okay.
whether they're going to merge it or take some of the content away from the Power Events website and put it onto the EA Event Apprenticeships website,
Or
I
is it, yeah.
guess they may not have resolved quite what they're aiming to do yet.
Or is it just basically a funding and management issue whereby the events apprenticeship website now falls under the Power of Events, so the Power of Events will upkeep it, do the management of it? Is that what's happening? We don't know, do we?
Oh, is this another case of a PR release that's they've done something minor, but they're trying to make it look bigger? I would refer you back to the story I think we may have mentioned, which is we've added a sausage to the menu.
I love that.
Yeah, it's. I mean, to me, it's incredibly vague. It loses lots and lots of double speak in it, and there's lots of Quango speak in here. I speak as somebody who worked in comms for a Quango for 3 years, so I recognise that very well. And it's all about enabling and connecting and all those lovely, lovely phrases. But where's the substance? Where's the bit that precisely says, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to be delivered, this is responsible for it, this is how it's going to be funded, this is where you access it, this is what you get out of it at the end. Those key, even if you sit down and go through the basics of a press release going out, who, what, why, when, where, how. Boom.
Exactly. Yeah.
Look
And
for those in that article.
yeah, what's the impact that's going to have on the industry? Why, what does this mean?
Yeah.
Who's it, how is this actually going to impact on the companies and the people, the young people looking for apprenticeships?
So
Yeah.
can I ask
I
you,
don't know.
can I ask you both, what would you like this to actually mean? What direction would you like to see this? What do you think they meant by what they've put out?
Well, the question is
Go
is
on.
it going to be, is it just a promotional arm? Is the intention literally to put apprentices in front of young people and then signpost them into training providers? Or is it ultimately going to be its own training provider that's going to deliver the apprentices? Because if you read the headline, it almost sounds like the apprenticeship for event management is going to be handed over to the power of events to deliver it. It's that when you say it's now going to come under the power of events, it's quite a broad statement. I would read that first off as,
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Are the power event is the power of events going to be a training provider for the events apprenticeship coordinator? Yeah.
There I'm saying, where's the detail in this?
Yeah.
Where's the who, what, why, when, where, how? Where's that nitty gritty of stuff that explains to people what's going to happen?
Yeah, be actually nice to have a chat with Richard Boddington or somebody to actually find out what does this actually mean?
Yep.
Or is it
Come on
something
the podcast, Richardson. Richard, come and explain it.
Yeah.
Well, in our pre-show chat, Paul, you pointed out something very important. The fact that we're now discussing it, questioning it, and trying to work out what they really mean. We're excuse me, we're experiencing the event industry, and we're asking questions. So if you've got a young person who's seeing what the power of events are doing, got inspired to get into the event industry, they see this. Are they going to know what it means?
Yep. That so what, isn't it? What does it mean to me?
But not only so what, but the thing is, vague and unclear wording is good. A young person who wants to come into the event industry is going to read this and go, I have no idea what this means.
No.
I'm not quite sure what any of it means. Should I learn more? Do I need to learn more? Or can I go through my existing apprenticeship training partner? Because they reach out to schools, don't they?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And
so what's going to take them away from their existing partnership that their educational establishment has and go with what we're discussing now?
Yeah, exactly. And I would have liked the release to say, this means that the organization, the funding, what the nitty gritty is. What does it actually mean? What's the practicalities? How is this going to change? And this means that more of the funding can be put in, or this means that the website comes under the umbrella of the power of events, which means it will sit on the app. What's the practicalities of this relationship? What does it mean? That's what I'd like to know.
I'm hoping what will happen is any gaps in what Power Events is currently providing in the way of knowledge for apprenticeships, the guidance and the resources might be filled or plugged by what event apprenticeships are doing. So it could be that the two will merge together and there'll be a much smoother path between not knowing what's going on to being fully informed and led to opportunities.
Yes, absolutely. I think, but yeah, we'll see. Hopefully they will do another piece that explains it all, or we'll see the website moved, or we'll see something actually happening that will explain what the reality is.
I'm sure we can all look forward to more press releases from them. Well, at least I know I'll get them. So
I just think we need clarity. Sorry to bang on, but I just think we need it to provide some clarity. What is it? What does it mean?
Yeah. Because
It's a press release too soon, in my opinion. This
yeah,
is announcing the thought of something or the intention of something without saying here's the substance of it. It's kind of, we get in the events industry, we get a little bit too wrapped up in this generally. Let's announce that we're going to do something rather than something with some substance. And I was just running through a couple of news portals this morning, and there's piece of coverage after coverage after coverage without the detail, and it almost looks like it's a let's throw something together and create something that might grab a bit of news. It feels a bit like that. I'm sure there's more substance to it, but wouldn't it have been nice to include it?
to include it, absolutely, because it is that thing, isn't it? Of, I know, Paul, you'll have had the same when a client comes, we've got this amazing story, and it's like, yes, so what? So what? Why would
Yeah.
we've got a new website? Yes, so what? But it can do this. Ah, okay. It can make ordering easier. It can do that. It actually has a story behind it. It actually has some sort of impact on your clients and potential clients. Fair enough. But if it's just a website, it's just a website. It's always that, what does it mean to the average organizer or the average company working in the industry? How will this impact on them? And if it will impact on them positively, yes, that's a story. If it's sort of meh, it's not a story, is it? So yeah.
As our American friends would say, where's the beef?
Exactly. Definitely.
Yeah. Anyway,
Okay.
we'll talk about that more as and when we have more,
When we can find out more.
Okay.
Yep.
if any more comes available. So last thing to talk about. And since we've talked about neurodiversity, it seems like also a very good story to talk about.
Mm.
There's a new report that exposes accessibility challenges for disabled delegates.
Yeah, I liked this one. It looked, I have to admit, I only picked up on this news this morning, so I've just read the article. I haven't read the actual report. I can read it this week and then feedback next week if you like. But I just thought it looked like a really robust bit of research. It was created by the Business of Events and ICC Wales and supported by the All-Party Parliamentary Group, APPG for Events. And it went out to venues. It surveyed 100 venues, and it also surveyed the public, and then has matched those experiences, or rather they are quite mismatched actually. There's a striking disparity, as they say, between how venues perceive their accessibility and how delegates experience it. So for example, 91% of venues have accessible toilets, and yet delegates say that I think where's the figure? Where's the figure? It's a lot different though for delegates, saying that 24% have experienced venues without accessible toilets. So that's a big gap between 9 and 24%. So whether they're going to smaller venues, whether they're just not finding the toilets, we don't know. But there's a gap between what venues think they're doing and what delegates are experiencing.
We know what venues are like because they often don't signpost to toilets, or at least they're very far away and you've got to go 20 minutes before you need it. So I'm sure people, when they say they didn't have accessible toilets, they probably do, just you can't find them. They're not obvious. So in our habit of picking things apart slightly, when they say 100 venues, do they specify whether they were grade 1 listed, grade 2 listed, new builds, custom? Because a lot of venues go through, they get a lot of money invested to make it better place, more accessible. Yeah, there's a lot of things that happen to event. Is there any clarification of what kind of venues were they looking at?
I will have a look at the report. I have downloaded the report and I will have a proper look and see what I can find. But it's always tricky because you're not matching up delegates to venues, are you? You're not it's not like the 100 venues that have been surveyed. Those delegates may not have visited those 100 venues. They're both snapshots and they're very different universes, as it were, of data. they might overlap a little bit, but not 100%.
So I'd say that this 100 venues could be 50 variants, 2 of 50 variants. So let's say big, XL, NEC. And then the next 2 could be the upstairs of a pub that runs live events and comedy nights. Both of them event venues.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
Unless you're qualifying this, I can think around here, sort of there's Bakewell Town Hall, comedy venue, puts music on, tiny place, little intimate comedy nights. But you have accessibility issues because the theatre part is upstairs. And it is upstairs. That's it. It's a listed building. There isn't a lift. There isn't anything else. You have stairs to climb to get into to see anything. Was it played? Oh, Paul Senna played our local village memorial hall. Audience of about 200 people. You've got 4 steps to get in. There is now an accessible access, but to go, you've got to go right around the back of the building and then come in through another set of doors, and then you've got to come down a ramp and come in and round. Unless you know it's there, you're going to be a bit stuck. So there's that little tiny events. Then you've got oddball event venue space, and so many places are now saying we've got event venue space and creating it out of something.
Yes, absolutely. I remember a time when every single pub had an event space, had a conference centre attached to the back, which was just basically a dingy, dark room that you had to walk up steps to get to. And it's hardly a conference centre, but that's how it seemed to be that was the buzzword, that they were pitching themselves at that market.
One last point on that then. If you've got 100 venues sampled, were the people who they sampled in terms of saying from the public perception of venue access, were they referring directly to the 100 venues that were sampled? Because if it's then you have an overwhelming problem there. And if you've got the 100 very best, most accessible venues you survey, and then you talk to random members of the public, they may have the view that we had. Yeah, I went to my comedy club, or I went to see this concert, I went to this. You might have 2 completely different sets of data. Public talking about some venues.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's talking about the 100 best, which it might be all purpose built. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. There might be an overlap, but they're probably, as I said before, 2 sets of data that don't overlap, that the venues are talking about one thing. I've just gone through the report and it doesn't actually say the venues surveyed. It doesn't list them.
Does it give any indication of where within the United Kingdom they were? Because Scotland has different building codes.
Interesting.
So don't forget also, you can have, just how many venues are there in 1 square mile of London? There's an awful lot of venues, especially grade 1 and grade 2. So if they're going to include outside of London, did they include Scotland? Because Scotland has different building codes, which means there might be more rules and regulations over accessibility than there are in England.
Yeah, that's very true. And no, I'm sorry, I'm scrolling through the report at the moment, but also we shouldn't just think of accessibility as in wheelchair use. We're talking about hearing impairment and things like that as well, aren't we? There's a lot of other disabilities that a venue has to actually accommodate. But something that Paul picked up on as well is I'm a trustee for our local community centre, and we're an events venue. We have comedy, music, all sorts of events going on there, and yet a lot of our rooms are not accessible because they're on the 2nd or the 3rd floor, because we're a 3-story building, and we're a grade 2 listed building, which means we cannot get a lift. We have been told several times it's just not happening. We just can't add a lift to our floors. So most of the events take place on the ground floor, but if you want to go up to the 1st floor, the 2nd floor, you can't. That's it. We're stuck with it. And that's where an older venue will have complications like that.
There are challenges, but not insurmountable. I do like using big words. So I think there are ways of dealing with it, but there are great challenges, especially if you're grade 1 and grade 2 listed, if the buildings are compacted together in the street. You can't put a ramp in because otherwise it's in the middle of the next building or in the middle of the road. But you can, there are things you can do, but sometimes that takes a bit of a budget to implement
It's
them.
I mean, I'm looking at the survey and it says that it was conducted in June 2025 with 1,000 attendees aged 18 to 65 who'd participated in workshops, conferences, conventions, exhibitions, award ceremonies, or corporate events in the previous 6 months. So that's a very good set of data there, 1,000, and nearly 1 in 3 had a visible or non-visible disability.
Okay, they've specified the variety of delegates that they've talked to, but not specified the variety of venues. It would have been nice to know, as we talked in the beginning about, was it built within the last 10 years, grade 1, grade 2 listed? Is it in Scotland, England, Ireland, and Wales? It would have been nice to have a little bit more. We've already mentioned this, a
Yeah,
bit more beef to it.
absolutely. A bit more.
As a vegetarian, it's very difficult to keep saying, where's the beef? And can
Fake
we have more
beef,
beef to this?
please.
Well, aubergines. Be more aubergine to this, please. But yeah, yeah, I don't want to pick this apart too much that it seems like we really hate this or when there's extreme problems. It really does highlight an important issue. Just it would have been nice to have more detail about the types of
Yeah,
venues they looked at.
absolutely. Just to give it more context, because if it's 100 venues that are all pubs or 100 venues that are all ICCs, that makes a very big difference because venue can mean different things to so many different people. You've got, from the pub to the Excel, they're all venues, aren't they?
Oh, from what I've experienced, hotels and restaurants all have event spaces now. So yeah, I don't know how that got into whether that gets into the mix
they
or
don't
not.
say. I think it
Of the
would have been
100
nice
venues.
if they'd have just done a little bit of explanation about the venues to say, 15 were purpose built, 20 were built in the last 10 years, 16% were heritage, grade 1, just to give that context to it. That would be interesting.
Were they worried that somebody might work out which venue it was and ends up calling them out?
Well,
Was that sort of a bit of
Well,
a
I think
worry there,
even
do you
with
think?
research, it's nice to mention and I've gone through it again, but no, there's not.
Well, you can go city level, can't you? I mean, you could say we looked at three venues in Birmingham, 5 in London, 6
Yeah,
in Aberdeen, and go around the country and sort of try to get more representative view of the different venues. But if it's just 100 venues in 1 square mile of London or any other, well-populated city, then yeah, I'm not sure that
yeah,
helps a lot.
absolutely. It'd be good to have some context as to who they were. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some nice case studies in here in the report looking at Glastonbury, Cvent Connect, examples of good accessible events, and so that's really nice. But I mean, you could say Glastonbury, is that a venue? Not really, not in the traditional sense. But are they talking about festival venues,
Well,
which would be a
Paul,
field, which it's easy, you could argue is easier to make accessible.
you gave me a really good definition of what a venue is some time ago. It was if you've got a field, it's probably not a venue because there's no permanent structure.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, it comes down to there's not is it a permanent venue or a temporary venue? I mean, we work with, in air quotes, venues that are essentially a big grass field, and then once you drop the infrastructure and you drop power, trackways, structures in there, fencing, all those kind of things, then you've got you're starting to create something from scratch. So it's as Jill said, it's a blank sheet of paper. You can just you can draw it up so that it's got to be. But then when you're looking at a building from the 1600s that's got so many, again, we work with one of our clients puts on experiential events in these kind of places. Trafalgar Square is a good example. The flagstones in Trafalgar Square have got preservation orders on them, so you can't. The point loading is minimal, so you have to have distributed load across them. It just there's a whole raft of stuff. But how do you then create something there that if there's steps as part of that, as an example, or you can't put things on top of something? I think Bob commented in a permanent structure, if you have some steps coming down out and to give you sufficiently low gradient to allow a ramp to go in, that from the front door of a building that used to end that actually opens onto the street, the start of your ramp's in the traffic. So how do you cover that? I mean, I know you can turn ramps and you curve them, but have you got enough turning circle? We did some work for a company, I don't know if they're still in existence now, it's about 10 years ago, called Enable Holidays. And they were a tour operator who specialized in accessible holidays. So they flew people, their team out to go and audit European destinations, so that when people arrived, they could grade the accommodation as to what was and wasn't accessible. And there were loads saying, yep, we've got an accessible bathroom in this room. It's on the ground floor, but there's 2 steps up to the entrance to get in. When you get in, you can get in through the door, that's fine. You can turn in, big wide door into the toilet, but when you open the door, the toilet's behind the door. So there's not enough room in the toilet for a wheelchair user to get in, turn around and access the toilet, because they can't close the door because there's not enough space. And these things have been built with things in mind. But what is truly accessible? And the legions of lists of things that the people, and these are new builds, these are new hotels, that they've gone to that level of trying to do something but fallen short, and usually failing at the final hurdle. Just like simple things like controls to heating too high up on the wall. So what might be eye height for us, able-bodied, when we walk in, trying to reach that from a wheelchair, or read what temperature setting it is. So there's an awful lot that goes into this, and I think that's the thing, is what is your building? What is it? Is it a fit for purpose? Is it a historic building? And heaven forbid, it's going to raise the horrible issue of, are there some buildings that just aren't and never will be accessible because they physically can't be?
They can't be. It's tricky, isn't it? That I mean, we're saying about I was talking earlier about the Victory Services Club, and I will give them a mention because they're an amazing charity. They are a military members club in the West End in Marble Arch, and as part of their building, they have a ramp along the front that goes to the side, because otherwise, if it came out front ways, if it was on an angle to the front of the building, it would again go in the road, as you say, so it goes to the side. And then when they refurbished their Carisbrooke Hall a few years ago, they actually lowered the floor of the entrance of the reception area so that it was on a level with the pavement. They have an accessible lift at the front that was put in with money from a donation from Help the Heroes, and they have accessible bedrooms as well. They've put a lot of work into making sure that their bedrooms are some of their bedrooms are accessible, with things like beds that is 540mm beds, so that you can move from a wheelchair onto the bed easier. Things like that. They've put a lot of thought into those rooms. And clear space, as you say, to transfer from the wheelchair to the bed, clear space to transfer from the wheelchair into the wet room, and things like that. So you can do it if it is a focus. It's whether it's a focus or not.
Well, so far that's all been fairly like physical accessibility problems, but let's also remember that there's no point color coding access routes. If you want to get to Hall B, follow the green route. Yeah, that's not going to help quite a
including
lot
Paul.
of people.
My merry
not
wanderings round various hospitals, when they say follow the purple line on the wall, and there's blue, and there's all these other non-colours like teal and taupe and mushroom, and sit and cry at the junction of 4 corridors. So I've no idea which way to go.
Well, there's colours even sighted people with good vision will go, oh no, is that duck egg blue or is that sky blue? I mean, what are we following? I have no idea. But the point being is that it's more than physical. There's the is the visual. I mean, if you're blind and it says follow any arrow, doesn't matter what color it is. If you can't see the arrow, you're not going to be able to follow it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that you need to consider as well as the
Yeah,
physical access.
absolutely. And it's interesting that of those 1,000 people surveyed for this research, 1 in 3 had a visible or non-visible disability. That's a third. That's a big amount, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a good chunk of the population.
Well, speaking of stats, then, so we did, the three of us, we were at Rent Tech Live on stage doing a live episode. Well, I'll say live recorded. Paul, you gave us a figure of how many people were colorblind.
Yeah, it's
Was that
it's 12%
3%?
of the British population.
Yeah.
Right. So if you imagine that you've got 10,000 attendees turning up at a venue, then you've got 12% who really can't make head or tail of any color combination of signage at all. Are they going to come back, or are they going to actually not even bother going in, thinking, "Oh, I'll give up before I even get in the building"? You know, you can't people
It's like
out.
the lovely when you the latest one was I was at a live event and they held a charity raffle, and on the grey ticket, on the green ticket, not got a clue what I was looking at. I just kept nudging the lady sat next to me. 77.
What colour is this?
Is that the right colour ticket?
Oh,
But yeah, Bobby, it presents challenges. It's a massively complex issue, as you rightly say, physical disability, non-visible disabilities, or everything that goes into this. Again, people with hearing impairment. We've just done some work with an organisation called Speaksy, and they do captioning and translation and stuff. And it's only when you sit and listen to them talk, and especially Adam, name check for Adam, the UK director, he was explaining just one little example was in their car when they're driving. His wife is deaf, but she lip reads. So in the car, she can't hear the kids asking for things in the back. But also, for her to understand what he's saying, he has to turn to her so she can lip read. And then when you turn back, you spot the car in front of you has stopped and you're just about to climb into the boot. And he said, yeah, those are little things you never think about. And the same would be if you're going into an event venue and you've got tannoy announcements going on. How does that help somebody who's hearing impaired? They can't hear the tannoy, and it just all these things when talking about the accessibility of the venue. Do you have screens with text on for people, as you would at a railway station where you have the train timetable?
Yeah.
Do you do the same thing on your digital screens? I would imagine that most venues, that space is prime real estate for advertising. So I bet that's where it's dominated.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
So complex, such a complex issue.
It is, isn't it? And it's lovely that we're actually talking about it, and there's more. We're not there yet, but more is being done around this sector, and there's more awareness, and there's more, just more awareness really, and more call for action in this sector.
That's the thing. We not only do we need to keep talking about it, but it also needs to be implemented.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if any venue's got a big green arrow saying "this way, please," please just think hard about what that actually means to anybody. I mean, it's not as helpful as you think.
And this is just me thinking about this kind of. Wouldn't it be advantageous? And I hate to think about categorization, but to have some element of saying physical accessibility, let's say audio accessibility, visual accessibility. You have different categories, so you can say this venue. What do you have to do? Have you got ramps? Have you got hearing loops? Have you got translation services and and signing services? Have you got non-color coded signage, etc.? But to give just so people can say, right, what do we need to do to fulfill those criteria to help people? Because as the concept of disability seems to be broadening, I have absolute sympathy for venue owners and operators in how do we cover all of these bases?
Do we just
you fall down on one and you get damned?
Do we put more people in? You know, instead of actually having signposts, do we actually have somebody standing there helping people? Do we end up making more jobs by going back to the personal approach?
Maybe, but if you've got somebody with hearing impairment, then you may want somebody trained up
Maybe
with
you do,
sign
yeah.
language skills. So
British Sign Language or American Sign Language?
neither. They're holding a big sign with an arrow, just sort of like pointing the way you should go. But anyway, it would be nice if this actually developed into some sort of standard where event planners, event bookers could actually go through and see what parts of accessibility have they successfully met, as in, you know, like a score sheet with, yes, it's got a ramp, yes, it's got wide doors, and helps you choose.
Yep.
I think we need to bring it close from here because otherwise we can
It's
talk
a-
about this for ages.
It's a
and
very
just
good
pick it
topic,
apart.
though.
What we really need is somebody who has accessibility requirements, physical or otherwise, to actually explain what life is really like for them. If anybody wants to come on and just come and talk to us about it, that would be really cool. Great that we've got venues talking about it, but we need to hear the real life stories of people.
Yeah.
So we get the real, what is it really, really like? Not just from a third person, you know, third party kind of conversation, but from the person who's actually gone through it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Well, as I say, we're going to bring things to an end. So thank you very much both for taking part
Thank
in
you.
today's episode.
Thanks for having us, Bob.
Well, it's a pleasure as always. And yeah, let's well, you won't be doing it, Jill, but
Next
let's
week.
do it all again next week.
No, I'm not. I'm out next week. So enjoy.
Oh, not another holiday.
No, I'm just out for the day. I wish.
Oh,
Not
fair
a
enough.
holiday.
Okay.
Right then.
Alrighty.
Okay.
All right, and
Bye, guys. Have a
thanks,
great
Paul.
weekend.
Have a good weekend. And cut.
This Week in Events is a production for the EPN Journal podcast. Huge thanks to our patrons, partners and industry friends for helping to make this possible. Details of how you can be a patron are in the show notes and on the EPN Journal website. Thanks for listening.